with Wisdom's Daughter and James Mack on 92.7 WKRA FM, your station for information and inspiration. Breaking news, current events, and trending stories on the Morning Takeover at 9. You're listening to The Morning Takeover with Wisdom's Daughter and James Mack on 92.7 WKRA FM, your station for information and inspiration. Breaking news, current events, and trending stories on The Morning Takeover at 9. Welcome, everyone, to The Morning Takeover with James and Wisdom. I am Wisdom's daughter. I'm here with none other than James Mack. Thank you so much for tuning in. James has got some local weather for you and some interesting news stories. James?
Good morning, and how are you, Wisdom? Just say hey. It is truly hot outside. Coming across at our news desk, we've been given a extreme heat advisory and warning for the Mid-South. It is very dangerously hot outside, and officials are saying that they're going to be opening up all emergency cooling centers in the Mid-South. That's for North Mississippi and for the Shelby County, Memphis areas. People there really trying to get us to understand that the heat index will be between 105 and 110 degrees. Wow. But on tomorrow, we should have a little bit of relief because there's a chance of rain, and that rain might bring us into an elevated level of slightly dangerous, meaning they go from a scale of 1 to 4, and we're at a 1. So there will be some showers. But right now, we're looking at 82 in Memphis, 83 in Olive Branch, and 82 in Oxford. That is your weather for today. Also, there are some interesting things that I think that our audience should know from the UPI, United Press International. They are putting out reports about a possible breach in the Federal Reserve. And this is very important for all of our listeners because we do have our banking accounts and our debit cards and so forth. And that information is very sensitive. And the Federal Reserve acknowledges that they gotten a notation from a Russian ransomware group called Lockbit. Lockbit claims that it has breached the Federal Reserve and is threatening to release 33 terabytes. That's a whole lot. I heard of megabytes and gigabytes, but this is really a whole lot of information. They're trying to release that information into the cloud. They're asking and they're saying that this information will be released and all of the American banking secrets would be released. They're asking for $50,000 within a 48-hour period, or they're going to release this information. Now, the Federal Reserve, according to the United Press International, is saying that it has not been confirmed. There has been attempts to hack the system where the banking information is from that's provided for, but there is no confirmation. And at this very time, everything is safe. All of our information is safe. And the Federal Reserve is working on continuing to protect our banking information.
Well,
also,
James, I would hope so. We do pay.
I hope so.
We do pay some bank fees for the FDIC to keep us protected. So I don't have any money in the bank anyway, so there's nothing for them to take. No, I'm just kidding. But
we might get us 40. We might get them 40 acres and a mule afterwards.
James, never getting those 40 acres and a mule. I thought I told you before.
Give me the mule. Well, let's give me the mule. I need the mule. Okay. But also, I got
I don't
another
need,
interesting.
hold on, I don't need a mule, James. All I need is my 40 acres. But James is going to be giving us some great information about
Yeah.
loan forgiveness. So stay tuned. Those of you who have, if you've got loans with the Department of Education, there's some great information out there. We're also going to be getting into some other stories in just a little while. We'll be talking about the future of America and what America is going to look like if Trump wins. We'll talk about his plan to pardon rioters. We're going to talk about the evangelicals that are still backing Trump up. Trump refuses to cite or is unable to cite his favorite scripture. And we'll be getting into how Trump is going to make America great again, along with other stories. James, give us that story on loan forgiveness.
Well, there's a deadline on June 30th for all borrowers of student loans, and I have had some. I had one forgiven. That's all that I had. But there are many of us, and many of our listeners, and people across the land that have student loans, and they're holding it down, and um, they kind of complicate things because they want their money. But student loan deadline, it is the deadline for forgiveness is June 30th. It's coming up fastly approaching that time. Says student loan borrowers have up to June 30th to meet the deadline that could lead to quicker debt forgiveness. The student loan borrowers have until the end of June, of course, to meet that deadline that could lead to quicker debt forgiveness. It says that also some could even see their debt cleared immediately. Now, I don't have those big loans like those doctors, lawyers, and Indian chiefs. But there is some, yeah, there is wisdom's daughter or wisdom. They say that you say that you have some, but this is a real good program, and it was blocked. It was an attempt to block the administration, the Biden administration, from doing this, and this will greatly help um, for those that have those outstanding student loans. I know that there's some institutions of higher learning that had uh, they were granted by various people loan and debt forgiveness in their own schools, but everybody doesn't have that opportunity. Please contact the Treasury Department and go to their website to treasury.org. It's here. Yeah, treasury.org to get your loans forgiven. A lot of people have gotten loan forgiveness. Some of them have had those debts for 10, 20, and some even went into 25 years. You know, the question that I really want to ask you is this, Wisdom. Um, I mean, why is it so long that they take so long? I mean, it seems like you pay the minimum payments, and then it seemed like it's still the principal is uh, never paid, and it seems like that debt just follows you just like a bad bill or something. You know, like
I'll tell
you
you.
want to. Yeah, go
I'll
ahead.
tell you what happened to me.
What happened?
So I had taken out student loans for undergrad, and then I had taken out student loans for two different master's programs. And ultimately, what happened is whenever I would go back to school for another semester, undergrad and graduate school, what they do is they allow you to put your loans in deferment. But what a lot of
Yeah,
people may not realize is that although your loans are in deferment, it's still earning interest and it's compounded interest. And so, what started out as a $30,000 loan for my undergraduate education, a $38,000 loan for my graduate education, and then additional loans, here, there, and in between, I ended up with $196,000 in student loan debt. And I would probably
wow,
say that, yeah, it was a lot.
wow,
More than,
wisdom.
more than
They
60%
trying
of
to hurt you, eh? Yeah.
Listen, they're trying to bankrupt me. More than 60% of that was just compounded interest because of me putting the loans in deferment every time I was in school another semester. And, it's just like a credit card. You can't just pay the minimum payment. You pay the minimum payment, but then you kind of never pay it off. And so because of the work that I do, I did qualify for a loan forgiveness. And I actually, in the first round, I had 169,000 forgiven in that first round
Wow,
of the
and that's
196. So yeah.
well, they're really reaching out to everyone, and please don't wait till the last minute, folks. We're right. Next week is it's fastly approaching, and we those of you that have those outstanding student loans, and you might have just you may not have as much as the great wisdom's daughter, but you might have an amount that can be completely forgiven, and you can be out of the hole. And it seems like I'm going to have to give you my 40 acres and a mule, wisdom to.
I told you I don't want the mule. I just want the 40 acres. I'll tell
Well,
you a
see, the
little bit
mule
more
might
about.
be a Cadillac. It might be a Cadillac or something, or
No,
Mercedes. I mean, I
no, a
can't
mule
get.
is a mule. Just listen, just give me
Okay.
my 40 acres. I can't do nothing with
I
that mule.
I
That would
give
be
you
like a pet.
I give you 10 of my acres. Maybe if I give you 10 of my acres, it would happen. I'd also like to before mentioning a few people just real quick. BB, Miss BB in New York, hello to you, lovely lady. God bless you. And hello to you, to Sharon Reed in Illinois, Karen Cox, my dear friend, also, and to Yvonne Moore, who's on her way to work or already at her desk. And she was telling me about this loan forgiveness that she needs also. A lot of people have sacrificed wisdom to get their education. And I'm just glad that the administration has uh, reached out to people to try to give them some kind of relief.
I'm glad that the Biden administration has been successful in getting this unblocked, because as I said, you're talking, my debt to income ratio was extremely high. It was, preventing me or making it difficult for me to get car loans, buy homes, do all types of things. And just for context, I applied in the original wave with the temporary waiver, the temporary loan forgiveness program, and that was in October of, I think, 2021. And then by April of 2022, I believe it was, I got the letter stating that, again, out of almost $200,000, 169,000 of it was forgiven. And then my credit score, it took a few months. It took maybe 2 or 3 months, or maybe 2 months for it to be reflected. But basically, by the time summer of 22 came, I could see a significant difference in my credit score. It shot up significantly. And again, it's also about your debt to income ratio. So as James said, it's really important. Look into this. This may be your last opportunity. We don't know who's going to be taking office next year. And this is something that helped the African American community greatly, because a lot of us did have to take out loans so we can get our education. And unfortunately, those loans were coming back to bite us, because what happens is these college students take out these loans, and then they graduate law school, medical school, college, what have you. And then they're stuck with all this student loan debt, and they're not necessarily getting the jobs right away that's going to pay them the salary to pay all this debt back. So really important, whether you have private loans, Department of Education, look into it. Contact your loan servicer, whether it's Mohila or whatever organization that is servicing your loans. Contact them and find out what you qualify for. Get that application in and get those loans forgiven. Let's get another $1 million in forgiveness handle before the year is out. It's important for me, James. Like you said,
Are you gonna need a mule for real?
right. Y'all, James is trying to give me this mule. All right, James, I'll take the mule, but I want the 40 acres. What was that information? I'm going to I will put it up in our chat for our listeners. What was the website that people can go to for loan
You
forgiveness?
can go to the Treasury Department. I think it's USTreasury.org. If not, we will correct that. But that's what I have from the report from our newsroom from United Press International. If not, I'll make sure that we make that correction, and we will remind you. We still got time, so I will, if we can remind our listeners on tomorrow if there's a error. But that's what I have here.
Okay. Excellent. Well, if any of you have student loans, and I know many of you do, please share this information with your friends, with your family. I caught the deadline in 2021, like literally 3 weeks before it was over. And it was primarily because there were people around me in my church, in my community, who knew about this program but didn't say anything. And I just happened to find out about it by default. So share this with your community. Let them know, even if they don't think they qualify, just apply anyway. And again, James, what was that deadline?
That deadline is June 30th, so it's fastly and approaching us as we speak. We have until Sunday, Sunday to get that done. So we're going to be reminding you, like I said, Wisdom, if that address is not right, I will make sure to get the proper information. But I'm pretty sure that's the one that you have for those of our listeners that are uh, looking on screen and also on the air.
Absolutely. Well, one of our listeners is actually a cybersecurity expert. Getting back to the story that you broke at the start of the show, saying that it's a lot of propaganda and election confusion, and that may very well be. Interestingly enough, the organization that I work for had a total network outage on, I believe it was yesterday. If it wasn't yesterday, it was Sunday, where the entire system across the entire organization, which encompasses many different campuses, locations, buildings, and the whole system went out. And so, you're talking about the healthcare industry. When healthcare industry systems go down, that's major because they're not able to see test results. They're not able to see labs. They're not able to put in orders for medication. And when I say not able to, I mean electronically. Of course, there's downtime procedures. They're able to do everything on paper. But I'm starting to see more and more of this. There was an article that I saw this morning about car dealerships were also having a similar issue where they were not able to see some information. So not sure what is going on, but do your best to protect yourself, protect your information. As AI and technology gets more advanced, we're seeing a lot of different types of schemes and scams, with AI even being able to mimic your voice and the voice of loved ones. And so you may get a phone call saying that sounds like a loved one saying, "Hey, I've been kidnapped. Send $10,000 to this account." Just
Well,
be
they
careful.
want 50. They want 50, and that it's really
You
strange. 50 grand. I mean, do you know how much information that is? That holds all those 33 terabytes. Now, I mean, somebody else can tell me what a terabyte holds, but that's a lot of information that can get out. And these hackers,
I
I mean,
think
I don't know. I don't
I
know.
think a terabyte is 1,000. Is it 1,000 gigs? I'll have to look it up to see what a terabyte equates to, because we know what gigabytes are, but we'll have to see what a terabyte equates to, right?
I just graduated to fourth grade. I don't know.
Would you stop? Between your fourth grade education and all my student debt, we're a mess.
Mm.
Let's see. So let's see how many gigs are in a terabyte. Let's see, because I don't know. I'm guessing, but I don't want to guess. Let's look it up. Let's see how many gigs are in a terabyte. Okay, so I was correct. So a terabyte is equivalent to 1,000 gigabytes. So if you're talking about 33 terabytes, you're talking about 33,000 gigabytes. 1 terabyte,
Wow.
you could probably take 100 selfies a day and load them up into some type of a hard drive for the rest of your life and not use a whole terabyte. That's a lot of information. And so, yeah, thanks so much, Jay Bennett. So not sure what's going on with that. But again, when you look at your bank statement and you see FDIC and you see all these other charges and things like that, we're actually paying for that security for our money. We're actually paying to use our own money. And that is why you have some bank accounts that will charge you an annual fee when you don't keep a certain amount of money in your account, because they're ultimately using that money and earning interest on that money that we don't get. So, bank accounts may give you 0.01 interest, but they're earning a lot more interest on that. And so one of our
So,
listeners said
so what if I so what if I just put my money under my mattress? Will it be all right if they can't get the terabytes? Won't get me or not?
well, as long as your house don't catch on fire, you'll be okay. But if you're going to put it under the mattress, you may want to put it in a fireproof or fire safe
I
case or
I
something.
just got an envelope. I just have an envelope, so that's all.
James, see, now you're going to tempt people, because if anybody finds your address, they're going to know that you keep money under the mattress.
Last $2, all I have $2 on.
James has $2 under his mattress, and I still have 26,000 in student debt that I'm working to get forgiven. So I am not going to miss that deadline. I am definitely looking into it for myself, and I will keep you guys posted and let you know how it's going. But again, those of you who are interested in the loan forgiveness, it's just a matter of contacting your loan servicer. All right, so we're going to cut quickly to a commercial, and we will be right back. James Mack and Wisdom's Daughter are dominating the airways with the Morning Takeover on 92.7 WKRA FM, your station for information and inspiration. Would you like to advertise on the radio? We're seeking sponsors for the Morning Takeover. Space is limited, so act now. Send an email to morningtakeoverjw@gmail.com for more information. And we are back. So we have a number of other stories that we want to share with you. There are some things that have been happening in Atlanta. We've been talking about Houston as of late. The week before that, there was a lot going on in Atlanta. Well, there are additional stories coming out of Atlanta. Many of you are familiar with Shirley Strawberry, the radio host of the Steve Harvey Morning Show. Well, her husband, or soon-to-be ex-husband, those of you who may not be familiar with this story, is actually facing 39 counts of a RICO charge, including a number of charges for fraud, identity fraud, all types of financial fraud, and including bigamy. And his co-defendant, Ericka King, has taken a plea. She has pled guilty to a number of fraud charges, but interestingly enough, she has evaded jail time. And so Ericka King has pled guilty, but she is going to testify for the prosecution against Ernest Williams. Again, this is the husband of Shirley Strawberry of the Steve Harvey Morning Show. And she is being allowed to walk away scot-free. So those of you who may not be familiar with this story, the husband, again, of Shirley Strawberry of the Steve Harvey Morning Show, Ernest Williams, 57 years old, also known as Nesto, was indicted by a Fulton County grand jury on April 23rd of 39 counts of fraud, according to the court documents. These were for events taking place between December 1st, 2009 through June 30th of 2022. He was engaged in a pattern of racketeering activity in Fulton County, Georgia, elsewhere in the state of Georgia, and in other states, including the state of Kentucky. He is most known for his scam of scamming at least 25 victims out of more than $750,000. That number was actually said to be $1 million. This is a story that had run locally here in Atlanta. And he has promised people that he would help them with their social media, Instagram, with their YouTube, with their images, that he would help them with their businesses, and unfortunately scam them out of a lot of money. And he is most known as a serial scammer, allegedly swindling his victims, primarily women, when he promised to help them with new business ventures, to promote their existing big business ventures, or to help them build their brand or image, of which he did not do. He allegedly stole hundreds of thousands of dollars from his victims, including personal vehicles, motorcycles, coach buses, RVs, trailers, automotive parts, and other various services and property, by passing himself off under the guise of a flourishing businessman, utilizing his status because of who his wife was. He would pretend to be a legitimate businessman, but he was stealing from people, Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis told WSB TV that Thursday. The historic schemer often used the illusion of romantic or close personal relationships with those victims to manipulate them and steal from them. Williams' ability to scam people was fueled by his marriage to Shirley Strawberry, the co-host of the Steve Harvey Morning Show. His Instagram page, which has now been scrubbed, was littered with pictures of him with various celebrities. He would often tote or throw out the name of his wife to gain street cred. The documents also allege that he knowingly entered into a fraudulent marriage with Shirley Strawberry and used her high-profile celebrity to coerce his victims into believing his legitimacy as a prominent businessman. Shirley Strawberry, 63, married Williams in January 2015 on his birthday. January 9th, 2015, actually on his birthday. However, the marriage to Strawberry was a ruse from the start, as he was legally married to another woman, and it has since come out that he has several wives. We believe she met a man, fell in love, married him, and the truth is at the time he was already married to someone else. This is what Fani Wallace told the news outlet. Now, Ericka King, who was a longtime friend and co-conspirator of Nesto, she was also listed as a co-conspirator on 19 of the 39 indictments that were filed against Williams, which she has currently pled guilty to. And once again, she's taken a plea. That plea has been accepted, and she will pay a $5,000 fine. She will get 1 year time served, 9 years probation, and she will not do any jail time, and she will testify for the state in this case. And so the Morning Takeover, WKRA FM, we will be following this story. We will certainly expect to be present at the trial. And this story is gaining mainstream news. I mean, this was posted by the New York Post, and those who are in the Atlanta area, many of whom are very familiar with this story. But this man, what he has actually done, he's facing a number of charges in addition to the fraud charges and the financial fraud charges and the bigamy charges. He's also facing a number of SA charges, and he's also facing a number of child P charges. Okay, so very interesting story. James, what are your thoughts? You don't often hear someone who has a connection to 19 RICO charges who's able to plead guilty and walk away scot-free. What do you think about this?
Well, as one of our listeners has said, that things are really heating up in the South, especially in Atlanta and in Texas. And as a side note, I was an intern at WBMX in Chicago, and Shirley Strawberry worked at that station. She worked with the late great Doug Banks, and I met her, sweetest woman in the world. And to see how the deception and the manipulation that this person uh, uh, done to Miss Strawberry's reputation, and not only her, but all the other victims that are not as famous as she is, he's he's where he should be. Um, Even though, like many of them, many people say, I'm just a bleeding heart for forgiveness and things. Justice needs to be served in this matter. And I was looking at the events that were happening with the young lady that gave the plea in Fulton County, Ericka, um, who seemed to be the brains behind all of these things. You know, they got the boss, and then they got the brain, or Peaky and the brain. Well, y'all don't know nothing about all
In the
that.
brain.
You
Well,
know, so
she's alleging, Ericka King is alleging that she is a victim and that she was coerced, as it says in the documents. And of
yeah,
course, all Ernest Williams is still to be considered innocent until proven guilty. And any statements about the case are alleged and so proven. But she is alleging that she's a victim as well, and that she was coerced and pressured into engaging in these activities. And she says that he was her boss, and she was just trying
but
to
she benefited though also from that though, wisdom. She benefited from what is it over? They're calculating it at about $7 million. Um, so she just wasn't an innocent bystander. I think she just yeah,
750,000. Yeah, almost a
it was
million. They're
700.
saying that was taken 750,000.
Okay. Well, 750, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of mule and acres. But my thing is, she wasn't sitting back just oh, well, I'll do what you say. I put you under a spell. You do what I tell you to do. This lady benefited from it. Not only that, they said that she impersonated a lawyer, actually a real lawyer that came in at the when she accepted that plea. She just jumped first and said,
Yeah, there
"Well,
was
I'm not going to drown." Yeah, and
Yeah,
she
there
jumped
was,
first.
one of the crimes that Ericka King pleaded guilty to was impersonating a lawyer out of D.C. by the name of Erica. I'm sorry, Erica, by the name of April Holloway, and April Holloway actually spoke at the plea hearing, and one of her concerns is the fact that Ericka King used her identity to pretend to be her. And while we know about some of the cases, we don't really know all of the spaces and places and ways and methods that she may have additionally used April Holloway's name and her image. I mean, she didn't have her lawyer ID number, thank God, but I can only imagine the anguish that April Holloway feels and the violation that she feels knowing that this woman ultimately stole her identity and not knowing where else she might have used that identity. So really interesting story. We have a whole lot more to cover in today's show, but we are going to be following the Ernest Williams case. He will be going to trial. He's currently being held at the Cobb County Adult Detention Center. And as far as we know, I don't believe a court date has been set for him yet, but we will be following this story, and our
And you will
plans
also be covering. You will also be covering
are
for the
yes,
station. You're going to
yes.
be covering the trial for us.
Wisdom's daughter will be covering the story, so we will be in the courtroom. We will have eyes in the courtroom. We will have cameras in the courtroom, so we'll bring you more information on that when it comes. All right, so in other news, we need to talk about the future of America. Evangelicals are still supporting Donald. And so let's talk about how Donald Trump plans to make America great again. That was his famous slogan when he ran for presidency, MAGA, make America great again. And so one of the first things that Donald Trump has stated that he would do as president, his first day in office, in fact, he says that he would pardon the January 6th rioters. And interestingly enough, his team has said something else. So in January of this year, Donald Trump held a campaign event in New Hampshire and heard from a supporter who urged him to free the January 6th criminals. Donald Trump replies, "We will." Now, as for when that might happen, the Republican declared mid-March that pardoning the January 6th hostages, now because he's calling them hostages, that's an interesting term because the supporter called them criminals, but he's calling them hostages, whom he believes are being wrongfully imprisoned, would be among his first acts after returning to the White House. Less than a week later, Trump added additional clarity to his plan, saying that January 6 rioters could expect pardons on the first day of his second term. According to those on the former president's team, January 6 pardons would be considered on a case-by-case basis, the idea being that Trump would exercise at least some caution and wouldn't simply pardon everyone convicted of crimes relating to the attack on the U.S. Capitol. But the presumptive GOP nominee himself apparently has a different perspective. And so when he sat down with Time Magazine's Eric Cordelessa, the reporter reminded him that more than 800 January 6 participants have been sentenced through our judicial system, and most of them pled guilty. Did you know it was that many? James, did you know it was 800? 800 people who were sentenced in that incident?
It
And
should
and
have been some
so,
more. Yeah, it should have
yeah.
been some more.
Oh, it was probably more involved, but they have 800 who they were able to sentence, and most of the 800 actually pled guilty. So there were many, many others. And so Cordelessa asked Trump, would you be pardoning every one of them, all 800? And he says, I would consider that, yes. And so, of course, the Time magazine reporter was a little stunned. He says, really? And Trump says, yes, absolutely. And then he goes on to share some bizarre story about the police ushering rioters into the Capitol, which we know never happened. and a nefarious they who destroyed evidence that would have made him look better. So anyway, but so that is one of the ways that Trump wants to make America great again, or plans to make America great again, that he is going to pardon or free the January 6th hostages, as he called them, because they are being wrongfully imprisoned. Oh, but it gets better. And so Donald Trump, interestingly enough, has support coming from a very unlikely place. And so evangelical Christians are speaking out on why they're still backing Donald Trump. One of them saying, "I'm not voting for a pastor. I'm voting for someone that leads the country." This is conservative Christians telling Bell True at the Road to Majority Conference in Washington, D.C. And so let's talk a little bit more about this, because that's really interesting that there are evangelicals who are supporting someone like Donald Trump, who does not necessarily emit Christian vibes, as I should say. Olivia Only says MAGA Supreme Court is looking at if the charges are valid against these insurrectionists. So it sounds like the Supreme Court may be trying to determine if they really was an insurrection. Because remember, according to Donald Trump, all those things are fake news. And so wearing cowboy hats bejeweled with Free Trump brooches and waving American flags, evangelical Christians promised to vote for Donald Trump at a key gathering on Saturday, saying that while he's not perfect, he'll do the right thing for America. And we're going to get into what his plan is for America. Trump was the keynote speaker at a Faith and Freedom Coalition in Washington, D.C., a gathering of politically influential conservative Christian activists who campaigned for strict abortion regulations and a tougher stance on the southern border. There he called on his religious supporters to go to the polls in a speech that notably glossed over abortion, which has become a sensitive issue for the presumptive Republican presidential nominee. Trump joined a slew of speakers, including Republican senators, governors, and congressmen and women, among the newly appointed Republican National Committee Chair, Michael Whatley. On stage, he drew cheers from the crowds as he applauded a divisive law signed in Louisiana this week, requiring the 10 Commandments to be displayed in every public school classroom. Has anyone read Thou Shalt Not Steal? I mean, has anybody read this incredible stuff? It's just incredible, Trump said to a room that erupted in ecstatic applause. They don't want it to go up. It's a crazy world. Wow. This, if I didn't know that this was Donald Trump speaking, James, I would think that this was someone in like the 3rd or 4th grade. This is someone who is possibly to become our next president and to be president again. Has anyone read Thou Shalt Not Steal? Well, apparently Donald Trump hasn't read Thou Shalt Not Steal, or he hasn't read Thou Shalt Not Lie. Because we know that he's been caught in many. So the day before, the former president posted his enthusiastic praise for the new law on his social media network, writing in capital letters, "I love the 10 Commandments in public schools, private schools, and many other places for that matter." So,
but not in Trump Tower or wherever Mar-a-Lago or whatever that is.
I don't even think Donald Trump has ever really. I don't know how much of the Bible he's really read.
Who's his pastor? I like to know who his pastor is. God help.
That would have been a really good question, and I don't know. I know you're going to be on the campaign trail, and you're going to be going in some of those spaces and places. And so, if you do meet up with Donald Trump, I need you to ask the man who is his pastor. So here's the interesting thing. So there were attendees that acknowledged that Trump has been criticized for breaking the 10 Commandments. Okay. So they're not trying to hide the fact that Trump has not even come close to living up to any of the commandments, right? Not even close. He says that they acknowledge that there were accusations that he committed adultery with Stormy Daniels and others, as well as his felony convictions in New York. But evangelicals are saying no one is perfect. They said, we've all broken the 10 Commandments, haven't we? All of us need Jesus. Well, I would agree there, said Frank Collins, 69, a pastor who drove 8 hours from Detroit with his 19-year-old son to hear the president speak. He says, we're not looking for a perfect person, but we're looking for a person who has a heart for the American people and a heart for God. Well, let's hear about Trump's heart for God, because James, it's quite interesting. So Donald Trump actually did an interview a number of years ago asking a very interesting question about his faith. Let's listen to the question and his answer, because what he said might surprise you. All right, here it is.
It's your favorite book. You mentioned the Bible. You've been talking about how it's your favorite book. And you said, I think last night in Iowa, some people are surprised that you say that. I'm wondering what one or two of your most favorite Bible verses are.
Well, and why. I wouldn't want to get into it, because to me that's very personal. You know, when I talk about the Bible, it's very personal. So I don't want to get into verses. I don't want to get into.
There's no verse that means a lot to you that you think about or cite.
The Bible means a lot to me, but I don't want to get into specifics.
Even to cite a verse that you like?
I don't want to do that.
You're an Old Testament guy or a New Testament guy?
Probably equal. I think it's just an incredible, the whole Bible is an incredible, I joke very much so. They always hold up the Art of the Deal. I say my second favorite book of all time. But I just think the Bible is just something very special.
Have you ever read the Quran? Do you have a view of that as a book?
I have not. I have not read
What's your view of that as a piece of important world history?
Well, it's certainly a piece of world history, and lots of things are happening, but it's not something that I have a lot of interest in. I would like to find out what's happening, why there's hatred, you look at what's going on in the world, and it's wonderful to say, hey, let's not look at Sweden, and let's not look at Norway, and let's not look at different places, but you look at what's happening with the Quran, it's a pretty scary thing.
Interesting. You look at what's happening with the
Oh
Quran.
my God. Oh my God.
Scary thing. And so
well, it's so strange to me that here this man sits here. Now he's selling Bibles too. You know, he hustling Bibles, anything he can get a quarter off of.
To earn
he
money.
Was hustling Bibles. Yeah, you know, here buy my Bible. He can't even quote a scripture. He's hollering about he's so happy about the decision to put the 10 Commandments into every public place, school, and everything else. What is good? Why? I mean, what good is it to have it and you don't even abide by it? And then I hope that you can explain to me, Wisdom. See, I told you I got a 4th grade education. What is an evangelical? You know, I'm a Baptist. My mama said I was born a Baptist, and she said she'd die one. You know, I'm a Baptist Costal. You know, I shout and carry on. So y'all don't y'all judge me. But you tell me who do they speak for? What I mean, you know, what's the difference? Oh, am I not an evangelical? I couldn't be no evangelical because I'm too radical. They say, I guess. But whatever, help me out a little bit, please help me.
Well, first of all, we've got some very interesting comments from our listeners. So for many people, the Constitution is their Bible, and totally agree with that. Another listener said separation between church and state is a freaking joke. It also depends on how big their checks are in terms of where their Constitution is. Donald Trump does not know, he could not recite his favorite scripture because he doesn't have one. And I mean, even young kids can recite Jesus wept, can recite John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. Donald Trump, these evangelicals are saying that they're looking for someone not who's perfect. And I agree with that. You're not going to find a perfect president. I also agree that we all have broken the 10 Commandments. However, not every person is a convicted felon. I don't see how you could be okay with electing or voting a convicted felon into as president. I just can't see that. And ultimately, they said they're just looking for someone who has a heart for the American people and a heart for God. But did these people not hear Donald Trump say that he doesn't care about anybody? He just wants their votes. They must have missed that part. They must not have been at that particular rally. It's interesting because, in public schools, you have to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I know coming up in elementary. Now, I went to Catholic school the majority of my life, but I did have some experiences with my friends who went to public school, and
No.
I'm well aware that they took prayer out of the schools, even out of the curriculum, which is why I went to private school, which is why I sent my son to private school. So that's going to be an interesting concept, putting the 10 commandments in school. I am not necessarily against that, but I don't think Donald Trump cares either way. I think somebody put that in his notes to say that so he can gain points, brownie points with these people.
Why you hustling? Why you going to church? Now, he started in Detroit and he came to the black church, and a church where no white people, no offense to the white people, that the white people have never been to. They scared to come into the inner city Detroit. They came there because Old Great One was there. I don't know what it was. Why didn't they come on Sunday morning? They came on a Saturday, I guess. And he's using religion. He's using our places of worship, which should be sacred. I really didn't like when politicians would come to the church and around election time and drop their little offering, maybe a couple $100 or so, and go out. Oh, well, me and my wife and such, and then we find out that the alderman's wife is his girlfriend or his other old lady that he got somebody, and he found somebody's son just to be his. This is my great son, and his children are suffering, and he ain't paid child support. The hypocrisy of what this man is doing is ridiculous. That's why I say, help me out a little bit. Am I too critical or whatever the case may be? Because these people are really mad. You saying that. I'm putting it in my word. I'd rather had a devil, that's what you about to get. I think truly, I do believe.
I don't think you're too critical at all. One of our listeners is reminding us that, well, we already know that Trump was selling Bibles, and even that, just I don't listen. He's a grifter, but. We were reminded that he actually held. There's a famous picture of him holding up the Bible. This is when he first, someone gave him the idea, why don't you sell some Donald Trump Bibles and autograph them? But one of our listeners reminded us that he actually held the Bible upside down. I didn't know that. So I just Googled it.
Yeah, he was right across the street. He was across the street from the White House, had the chief of staff of all of the armed forces and everybody, and he went across the street where the church was, where they burned a Black Lives Matter banner, and he stood there with the Bible. And they go to show you he ain't reading it. It don't mean nothing until he held it upside down. And the Evangelicals, they went to dancing in the street and baptizing with water hoses and all that.
Oh my gosh. He didn't even know how to hold the Bible. Now, why I didn't actually find a picture of him holding it upside down, but I could tell that it was upside down because there are a number of pictures where he's kind of turning it funny and he's looking very confused. And again, this is getting back to the story. This is the person that these evangelicals are supporting, a man who has openly boasted about inappropriately touching women at his leisure just because he's Donald Trump. Another listener said, just like Sarah Palin, she couldn't name one newspaper. And many organizations are suing the governor in Louisiana regarding that. These evangelicals obviously don't know that they're in a cult, says another listener. And Donald Trump once said he never asked for forgiveness because, Donald Trump once said he never asked for forgiveness for his sins because he's a good boy and never does anything wrong. Coming from Olivia only.
He broke all the commandments. Then he's a liar. And he's talking all that foolishness and trying to hook. Now, all brothers and sisters that are in the evangelical movement, now, I'm not saying that y'all hoodwink and bamboozle, but wouldn't you think? Now, here's a man talking about he's going to grab ladies at their private parts, and he need Tic Tacs and stuff because he's going to kiss them and they like him and all that. He lies and he's a thief. He was a crook from the beginning. And you mean to tell me, I don't care who's running, I'd run Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck. Somebody needs, not Donald Duck. He sounds too much like Donald Trump. But, somebody got to run. Underdogs, somebody's got to run to make sure that this man, y'all vote, please, y'all vote. I'm not telling you who to vote for, but help us all because we're gonna be in trouble with this. He's hawking Bibles. He sold thousands of them. People ain't read the Bible. They just bought it because he had Lee Greenwood on there talking about God bless the USA and all that old foolishness that he's doing, and can't even hold the Bible up. I bet you lightning was coming. It was a dark cloud over there. He was in front of the church. There was a dark cloud, and lightning probably.
So apparently he held the Bible upside down in front of the church, and the leaders of that church were not pleased. Another listener said Trump held the Bible upside down like Hitler did in Germany. I will find those pictures and post it to our to the community wall on our YouTube. So speaking of that, you can follow James Mack at James Mack. Give us your YouTube handle, because I know you recently changed it. Is it James Mack 1? What did you change it to?
It is James. No, it's Your Man on the Street 1. Or you can type in your search engine. You can type James Mack, just James MC, Your Man on the Street. It'll lead you to that page. Also, I want to say support. If you want to support our show with your advertising dollars and anything else, and for our YouTube listeners, if we've been behaving. So I didn't mean to talk about the man and lightning gonna hit him and all that stuff. But you might want to drop a tip or two. You can, chick-a-ling, you can. We ain't hawking Bibles or nothing, and we ain't telling you we got water in a bag or some kind of trick or nothing. But we just want to bring you inspiration and information. I'm gonna hit this thing right here and get out your way.
So definitely you can follow us on YouTube. You can follow James at Your Man on the Street 1. You can follow me at I Am Wisdom's Daughter on YouTube. And on that note, let's cut to a commercial and we will be right back.
You're listening to The Morning Takeover with Wisdom's Daughter and James Mack on 92.7 WKRA FM, your station for information and inspiration. Breaking news, current events, and trending stories on The Morning Takeover at 9.
So you can find us on The Morning Takeover, our new time, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. And those of you who are listening, thank you so much for joining us. So we've been talking about Donald Trump because he wants to make America great again. And Donald Trump has plans. And his first plan is to pardon all, not just some, but all 800 of the rioters, January 6 rioters, many of whom pled guilty to the insurrection. And we've also been talking about the Evangelicals who are supporting Donald Trump, stating that they're not looking for a preacher. They're not looking for a pastor. They're looking for someone who's going to do the right thing by America. And that, no one is perfect. And so these evangelicals have no problem voting for a convicted felon, stating that I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. A perfect person does not exist. Many of them flew down to Florida to join the convention and said that evangelicals will stand behind Donald Trump. And so we're going to get into more of Donald Trump's plans for America. And because what we're talking about is the future of America. What will America look like? What will America look like with Donald Trump as president? We're going to get into that in just a moment. They want to take us back to 1776. They think America was great during the Jim Crow era. So those are some of the things that we might have to look forward to. As some of our listeners
I'm not going back to the cotton field. I'm not going back out there and be Kobe and all that other. I don't do well with getting popped and whooped and called things. I like to get my hair cut, and I don't like yes the boss and all that other stuff. And it's so nerve wracking to me how people are gullible like it, and it's frightening. Why is this man saying America is not great? It's a good country. It's a great country. We got a lot of work to do. But what's missing? What happened? You mean all the advancements and all the things that are going on today has set America back? I don't understand that rationale. Maybe you can help me, Wisdom. Help me out. Fourth grade education, sweetheart.
I think Penelope S can help you. She says she got her passport. So she's ready in case she's got to leave the country, because no, we're certainly not going back. There's something else. So, and this is quite disturbing. So back in the conference hall, Pastor Frank Vallone, who is an anti-abortion activist and the national director of Priests for Life, he told The Independent that he did not need Trump to be overtly vocal about his specific views, but instead needed him to follow the conservative Christian agenda through facilitating legislation. So basically, we don't care what Donald Trump says, as long as he follows our agenda and does what we want him to do. That's good enough for us. Again, we're not looking for somebody who necessarily is going to live out our faith in all its particulars. We're looking for someone who's going to defend our right to live our faith. He's going to give us the freedom to live our faith. Well, that statement right there is in direct contradiction to what Pastor Pavone stated. Again, he stated he does not need Trump to be vocal about his specific views or his agenda. He can talk about, paint brushes, and he can talk about crayons and boats and sharks and all those things. We don't care, just as long as he follows the conservative Christian agenda and pushes that agenda through legislature. So the agenda of Christian evangelicals is somewhat clear. They are giving Donald Trump a pass, saying that we've gotten abortion out of the federal government and back to the states. The people will decide, and that's the way it should be. This is what Trump said, as groups shouted, "No unalived babies" in the background. He also says, like Ronald Reagan, I believe in exceptions for the life of the mother. If there was SA or incest, you have to go with your heart. You have to also remember, you have to get elected. That's Donald Trump's interesting response. And so I want to get into now his specific plan for America if he wins. Because what he wants to do is, to me, is quite radical. And then we'll share some of what our folks are saying online. And if there's time, we'll open up the lines, because I know there are some of you that may have something that you would like to say about this topic. And so one of the things that Donald Trump wants to do, he wants to crack down on illegal immigration to an extreme degree. That would include he's planning a massive expansion of his first term, again, cracking down on immigration if he returns to power. Listen to how he refers the presidency, if he returns to power in 2025. And so his extreme plan for cracking down on legal or illegal immigration is thus: he would carry out mass deportations. Mr. Trump's top immigration advisor, Stephen Miller, said that a second Trump administration would seek a tenfold increase in the volume of deportations to more than 1 million per year. He would increase the number of agents for ICE raids. He plans to reassign federal agents and the National Guard to immigration control. He would also enable the use of federal troops to apprehend migrants. He plans to build camps to detain immigrants. The Trump team plans to use military funds to build vast holding facilities to detain immigrants while their deportation case progresses. Even listening to that, I can't help but picture in my mind the slave cells on Cape Coast, on the coast of Africa, where African slaves were hoarded into tight quarters, barely able to breathe, into holding cells on the beach, waiting to be put on ships to be shipped off to the Americas and all over the world. Number 4, he wants to push for other countries to take would-be asylum seekers from the United States. He plans to revive safe third country agreements with Central American countries and expand them to Africa and elsewhere. The aim is to send people seeking asylum to other countries. Number 5, once again, ban entry into the United States by people from certain Muslim-majority nations. He plans to suspend the nation's refugee program and once again bar visitors from mostly Muslim countries, reinstating a version of the travel ban that President Biden revoked in 2021. Number 6, try to end birthright citizenship. His administration would declare that children born to undocumented parents were not entitled or would not be entitled to citizenship, and would cease issuing documents like Social Security cards and passports to them. That is just That's a lot. And that's his plan of that's his plan for immigration. That's how he
That's
plans
a
to move
bug.
forward with immigration.
Oh, Jesus
Uh,
Christ.
it's a lot. It is a lot, but it is important that we understand the agenda and the plan for what is potentially coming. Okay. Let's keep going. And then we'll get to the comments, and we'll have some time to open up the lines. So he also plans to use the Justice Department to prosecute his adversaries. Mr. Trump has declared that he would use the powers of the presidency to seek vengeance on his perceived foes. His allies have developed a legal rationale to erase the Justice Department's independence from the president. Mr. Trump has suggested that he would, number one, direct a criminal investigation into Mr. Biden and his family. As president, Mr. Trump pressed the Justice Department to investigate his foes. If reelected, he has vowed to appoint a special prosecutor to go after Mr. Biden and his family. Number two, have foes, his enemies, indicted for challenging him politically. He has cited the precedent of his own indictments to declare that if he became president again and someone challenged him politically, he could go down and indict them. Number three, target journalists for prosecution. Kash Patel, a Trump confidant, has threatened to target journalists for prosecution if Mr. Trump returns to power. The campaign later distanced Mr. Trump from the remarks. His next plan of how he's going to make America great again, and this is what we could look forward to in a country with Donald Trump as president once again, is an increase in presidential power. He wants to increase presidential power. Mr. Trump and his associates have a broad goal to alter the balance of power by increasing the president's authority over every part of the federal government that currently operates independently of the White House. I don't know, James, but that sounds like an autocracy to me. It sounds like Mr. Trump, as they're referring to him, wants to be a dictator. He says, number one, he will bring independent agencies under presidential control. Congress has set up various regulatory agencies to operate independently from the White House. Mr. Trump has vowed to bring them under presidential control, setting up a potential court fight. Secondly, he wants to revive the practice of impounding funds. He has vowed to return to a system under which the president has the power to refuse to spend that money Congress has appropriated for programs the president doesn't like. Number three, strip employment protections from tens of thousands of longtime civil servants. During Mr. Trump's presidency, he issued an executive order making it easier to fire career officials and replace them with loyalists. Mr. Biden, or I should say President Biden, rescinded it, but Mr. Trump has said that he would reissue it in a second term. Number four, purge officials from intelligence agencies, law enforcement, and the State Department and the Pentagon. Mr. Trump has disparaged the career workforce at agencies involved in national security and foreign policy as an evil deep state he intends to destroy. And number five, appoint lawyers who would bless his agenda as lawful. You can't make this up. Politically appointed lawyers in the first Trump administration sometimes raised objections to White House proposals. Several of his closest advisors are now vetting lawyers seen as more likely to embrace aggressive legal theories about his scope of power. So there is more. We're going to get into part 2 tomorrow because I don't think we'll have time to finish today. I want to hear from some of you. But this is a lot. It is very interesting because it really does, and it's scary. One of our listeners said that it's scary. It absolutely is. He has already said that he wants to be a dictator, but his cult followers obviously don't mind. This is quite scary, what it is that he's seeking to do. And unfortunately, Donald Trump is able to use this concept of things not being precedented to kind of do whatever it is that he wants to do. We'll talk about his plans for economic policies and his plans to upend trade tomorrow. We'll also talk about his retreat from military engagement with Europe tomorrow. There'll be a part 2. But James, I want to hear from you, and I'm also going to I'm going to put our call in so we can hear from some of our listeners, because I know that there are many of you that have something that you want to say about Trump's agenda. James?
What can you say about craziness? And what can you say about a person that wants to take this country not forward, but really going backwards from all the many gains that we have? He's telling you what he's going to do. He's letting you know. And I think you missed number 6. I think you got 5. Number 6 is he wants to stay in power forever. And what Congress, and I'm speaking to congresspersons, and no matter what your political party is, would you let this idiot do? And I'm just gonna just say, would you let this person? I'm not calling him Mister. Let's say Trump, Donald, or the Don, or whatever you want to call him, because he sounds like someone that I don't understand it. I don't understand it, how people follow this person, leading them. He could lead them to the cliff and say, all of you all go ahead of me and I'll meet you when you get to the other side, and everybody falling over the cliff. Listen, this is some serious, serious thoughts that he's letting you know. I want lawyers to make it legal of what I'm doing and speak legally. I want judges to do what I want them to do. What kind of foolishness is that? This is a democracy that we live in. We're supposed to live in. Imperfect. No, it's not to the letter, but I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. But I'm a little bit nervous. I might have to get my my traveling shoes too. But I'm not going anywhere. I just believe that things will work out. The civil servants, people that are that work each and every day, 3 shifts a day. The armed forces. What kind of armed forces are we going to have? And then he wants to suppress people that don't believe like he believes, and it's just heartbreaking to me. It really is hard. Listen, you all are out there. I don't want to do all of the talking. Come on and speak. And if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. And if you got anything to add, come on and add it. The link is in the chat. Come on in and express yourself. We've been quiet too long. I'm not going to be quiet. I'm going to state the facts as they are. If it was Joe Biden talking like this, not only would I be screaming and hollering, but he needs to go to. No president should have absolute power. And also, the Supreme Court is right now trying to make a decision, or thinking of a decision, to give this man full immunity. What does that say about our justice system? What does it say when legislators say we'll give him what he wants just to keep your job? I would be quitting. I holler at you. My reputation, my integrity, and what I stand for, I will not compromise on. And liberty and freedom, we the people, not Trump. How could we let this happen? We should not allow this to happen again.
Absolutely not. Another listener said, don't forget about Roger Stone being caught on tape talking about their plan to steal the election this time. According to him, they have judges and attorneys in place. Again, there is no perfect president, but we know that former President Barack Obama couldn't get away with talking like this. Joe Biden couldn't get away with talking like this.
No. Well, let's go back to Barack Obama. Barack Obama would have, you know what they would have done to him and all of us that look like him. Like I said the other day, if black people would have gotten up on the Capitol back in the 60s, like we were fighting for civil rights, and would have done what these people that he said he'll pardon them, people that have committed treason, he would pardon them. They brought the rebel flag into the Capitol. They were defeated. The rebel flag represented the Civil War, the Confederacy that tried to overturn the lawful government through war, a half of a country. to try to civil war. How could this happen? And nobody, but you got the church people saying, the evangelicals saying, we want. What kind of idiots? I'm not gonna. I'll take that. And I don't take that back. What kind of people thinking? You say we represent Christ. You represent the church. But then you want me to go along with something like this? Impossible.
So here's the interesting part. They're saying that they're not voting for a preacher or a pastor. However, they put a man like Donald Trump in the pastorate, in the role of a priest? Probably not, because that's someone who's governing their souls, governing their spiritual faith, and all of those things. But how could you be okay putting not okay putting someone like Donald Trump?
He's hustling Bibles. He's hustling Bibles. You might as well keep the crooked preachers and the preachers that are doing wrong and grabbing other people's private parts at 12 years old and all that stuff. The man might as well go back. Yeah, the man might as well go back.
Why would you not want to put somebody in the presidency that you would consider putting in your pulpit? Meaning, if you would not consider the man putting the man in your pulpit, then why put him in the presidency? That's my point, right? They're basically saying, well, he doesn't need to be a preacher. He's not a minister. But do we not still have standards? Does the church still not have standards for their leader? Why don't we have standards for our leader for this country? I also wonder, again, why does Donald Trump get a pass? And the other thing I wonder, because I hear this a lot. So when we talk about the fact that, and again, this is just my opinion, that Donald Trump may not be, he's not a respectable candidate. Okay, I think everyone can agree upon that. He's not a respectable candidate. He's a businessman. I don't even think he's that great of a businessman. Not a respectable candidate, and he is a convicted felon. And we basically are saying that he really should not. Not only should he not take office, but he shouldn't even be allowed to run. And then people come back with, well, Biden isn't that better either. And I get it. There are a lot of people who are tired of having to choose the lesser of two evils, but you're always going to have to choose the lesser of two evils because you're never going to find anyone that's perfect. I just get frustrated when people compare, Biden to Donald Trump. I don't know what Biden does or has done in his private time, but I know what Donald Trump has openly said and done and what he's been convicted of. I know that there are things that the Biden administration, because remember, the Biden administration is piggybacking off of the Obama administration. So, I know there are some that have their own opinions about what they think Obama did or didn't do. But what I know is that there are strides that the Obama and bleeding into the Biden administration have made for the Black community that I don't believe we would have had if not for them. We talked about loan forgiveness earlier. Those of you who are just tuning in, I talked about the fact that I had almost 170,000. It was 169,000 of student debt relieved, which improved my credit score, which lowered my debt to income ratio, which allowed me to qualify to buy a home and other things. That's just one of those things. There are many, many, many others that the Biden administration has done to truly help this country. Do you really believe that Donald Trump's goal is to help the country or to help himself? When has this man really ever demonstrated a true, honest, genuine desire to help other people? You don't see it that often. So, again, we don't have to agree on necessarily who we're going to vote for. I just say vote whoever you're going to vote for, just vote. But again, we need to look at this man's agenda, because oftentimes people, they think the grass is greener on the other side. And you think you want something until you get it and you realize, oh my gosh, this is not what I signed up for. Donald Trump is making it very clear where he wants to take this country. He's making it very clear. He wants to turn America into a dictatorship. He wants to utilize, first of all, he wants to increase his presidential power so that he can run this country like a dictatorship without calling it a dictatorship. He wants to be able to use his status and his power to indict anyone that doesn't agree with him. That's a dictator. He wants to be able to use the Justice Department to go after and to investigate his adversaries. That's what dictators do. It's all the things that he wants to do, with the exception of the violence that goes along with it. He wants to carry out mass deportations. Understand that there are people who may be actual citizens, but they don't look like typical American citizens, don't sound like typical American citizens, who may be scooped up and suddenly their paperwork lost. And just because of how they look, we're just going to, Trump's agenda is setting this country up for massive issues with racism on top of what we already have, discrimination on top of what we already have, with what he's calling mass deportations. He's talking about building detention camps. So imagine, you've seen pictures of the Holocaust. You've seen pictures, we showed it before, of what was done by previous presidents when they had these cages, ultimately, with these people sitting in these cages with no food, no water, children separated from their parents. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about, because there are people out here who may not look like Donald Trump, who could be scooped up. Oh, you're from Central America, we're kicking you out of the country. No, I'm an American citizen. No, you're not. So we need to really think long and hard about what Trump wants to use the presidency for. Is it really because he wants to help the people in this country? And who is it that needs help? It's the people who are less fortunate. It's the lower class. It's the middle class that need help. The upper class are doing fine. Do you really think that Donald Trump really cares about the poor? And if he does, what poor does he care about? Or is this an opportunity for him to return us to Jim Crow and KKK? Want to hear from you all. James?
Well, I like to relieve a fear of, and I got excited. I'm not apologizing for that. And no, I don't believe civil war is going to break out, because I don't think that there's enough Confederates to do so. I don't think people will allow that to happen. And I really believe that we do have people that are rich, people that are citizens, that really, really, really will not let this person get in. And we're showing the comparison and letting you know that this mad person, that a madman, I'm going to just say it, he's a madman. He's worse than Dr. Frankenstein and worse than any mad scientist, because he wants to literally benefit on the backs of everybody, and anybody that does not agree with his ideology is wrong. And then you're going to prosecute us, throw us in camps and in jail. I'm not going. I'm just saying that, and I'm just going to tell the truth. I'm not going.
We know you're not
going. If I got to knock on everybody's door in the state, I will, because this is wisdom. This is serious business. It is. This man is for real, and whoever's behind him is serious too. If this man gets back into office, we better look out. And if the Congress is not unified, and I'm praying that the Congress is unified, and let any chief executive know, you will not have absolute power. The only way that he can get this, a Congress and a person that sits down at home and say that their vote doesn't count. Your vote count. We got him out of there the first time he ran. The last time he ran, we got him out of there, and we can keep him out of there. He needs to be prosecuted. To the full extent of the law. Yes,
I agree.
ma'am.
I want to address something that our listeners are commenting on. So one of the things that you have to realize is when Trump came into the presidency, okay, it was right before the pandemic, and so Donald Trump likes to boast about gas prices were lower than they've ever been. Well, guess what? Nobody was driving at the time. It was COVID, so. Yeah, inflation might have been low because people weren't buying anything at the time. You couldn't go anywhere at the time. So you have to remember, President Biden came into a post-pandemic presidency, almost like when Obama came into the presidency, having to fix all of the issues, and he inherited a lot of issues from the previous administration. And so Biden inherited a lot of the issues from the Trump administration, mainly because of how he mishandled the pandemic. Now, tomorrow we're going to be doing some fact checking because, again, Donald Trump has made some blanket statements about how he's given more money to historically Black colleges than anyone else, and he's done more for the Black community than anyone else, and just kind of throwing out things and just nonsense. Now, we're also going to fact check Biden because there are some numbers that Biden threw out that weren't totally accurate. They weren't as off as Trump's numbers, but we're definitely going to get into this. But just remember what what Biden inherited when he came into the presidency. Ultimately, your vote is your vote. Your values are your values. We're just telling you, get out there and vote, regardless of who you vote for. But familiarize yourself with the agenda and ask yourself, what is the future of America and where is the person that we're going to put into office going to take us? And is that a place that we want to go? So we want to thank all of you for listening. Make sure you join us tomorrow at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the Morning Takeover. We will be right back here tomorrow, and we will see you all then. Have a great Tuesday.
You're listening to The Morning Takeover with Wisdom's Daughter and James Mack on 92.7 WKRA FM, your station for information and inspiration. Breaking news, current events, and trending stories on The Morning Takeover at 9.